But I was looking at it, and I reload all my ammunition, and I was down there reloading and doing some stuff, and I looked off to one side, and I've got this caribou. It's all covered up, and he's sitting there, great big caribou, and underneath that is a moose, and I, and I started thinking about those trips. And just how all that happened, and God laid this on my heart, and it's a couple stories. It's actually more than a couple stories, but it's really interesting, and it really felt like something God was telling me to say to everybody, including myself, and realize. But when I was 16, I went to Alaska. My dad decided he wanted to go to Alaska. He had a friend that lived up there, and so he asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, as long as I can hunt, I'll go. And so he said, yeah, whatever, you know. So me, my dad, and my mom drove up the Alcan Highway. It was nearly 7 days driving up there. Yeah. And it was a trip. It was so hard going up that after we got up there, and I hunted, and I shot a caribou, but after, on the way home, Dad didn't want to go back down the Alcan Highway, so we took the ferry, went over to Juneau, Alaska, and there's a ferry there, and you take the ferry all the way back down to Washington. But it was a trip. I mean, the windshield broke in so many different places I lost track. We changed tires, I don't know how many times on the way up, and kept buying new tires. Every time we change tire out, we buy an extra one. Then we realized we better buy 2 or 3 just in case, because there's some places that it's hundreds of miles between, you know, one station to another. Anyway, we made it. And I always wanted to go back, and I always wanted to hunt moose. And during the time when I went up there was in August, and the moose season wasn't until September, and I couldn't hunt. And I always wanted to shoot a moose. So I thought for a real long time, in my 20s, I thought I would drive up there. And I had the money saved up, and I had planned it all out. And in Alaska, you don't need a guide. And so I was thinking, oh, this is great, you know. But then I started penciling out the days, and I couldn't afford to use that ferry. That thing was very, very expensive. I wouldn't even imagine trying to, you know, I priced it. It wasn't worth it. So I was thinking, driving up there is going to take 6 or 7 days each way. And I started to look at how much money I'd lose by being gone from work, and I realized that didn't work either. So I started to think British Columbia. Now, British Columbia has a law, though, that you have to have a guide. So I thought, well, that's okay, you know, I can find somebody and he can help me, and that'll be great, you know. And I've never hunted with a guide before, and I thought, well, that'd be kind of nice to have somebody there to help out. Anyway, long story short, and I'm going to probably say this about half a dozen times, so when I say about the third, fourth time, long story short, don't laugh, because it's kind of long. But anyway, I go and I get up there, and I book a reasonable or actually cheap guide, thinking, well, you know, if there are moose there, it doesn't matter about the guide anyway, right? Well, there was no moose up there. And there was no guide, really. What had happened was I booked this guy, got up there, and the first day I got there was supposed to be, you know, I was going to come into camp and talk to him and everything. He says, hey, I'm having trouble locating a guide. I lost the one that was with me, and I have 2 groups coming in, and you're in the second group. So finally, I waited a day after I drove up there. And then finally he called me up and said, okay, you know, meet me over here, and we'll bring you out. Well, I didn't know who he had gotten or what was going on, but the first thing we had to do is saddle all the pack horses, saddle up the horses, get all the gear together, and then go up this trailhead. Well, the guide was there, the original that I booked with was there, and he had his brother-in-law. Well, his brother-in-law never hunted, never shot, never packed a horse, never rode a horse, never saddled a horse, but I didn't know it at the time. Anyway, so I'm standing there thinking, okay, this is going to be, you know, I was all excited, you know, first day of the hunt. Anyway, it wasn't that exciting. We got lost, I can't even tell you how many times. He kept losing his pack horse, so I took that pack horse, and I was already leading one pack horse, so I tailed one to the other, and we started going off. Well, every time I look at him, he'd go, British Columbia is really thick, really, really thick. The trees are like, you can't hardly see 100 feet. I mean, that's how thick the trees are. So anyway, we're going along, and I kept seeing him go off the trail. And I thought, well, he knew where he was going, so it was okay. And the reason I knew he was going off the trail is they blaze trails out there. And you see blaze marks, and you're supposed to follow the blaze marks, and they go to where the camp is. And I thought, well, maybe there's another way, or maybe he's taking a shortcut. Well, after a while, I realized he was not, and we had to backtrack, I don't even know how many times, and I'm pulling the pack horse, so he didn't really care anyway. I'm pulling 2 pack horses. And we get back around, and I finally get it straightened out, and I say, hey, you know what? These blaze marks, I think, might mark the trail going into the camp. And I said, let me see. Let's see. And so I let him off, and we got to camp finally. It was dark when we got to camp, and it was not supposed to take that long. Anyway, so we get there, and we go out hunting. Well, this guy doesn't know the first thing about hunting at all. So really, and there was one guy, and he was the main guy. He was this guy's brother-in-law, and he was taking these people that had come in from Virginia, and I guess there was 2 or 3 of them, and only one of me, so I got the other guy. Anyway, so long story short, again, there it is. We didn't see anything. 7 days of hunting, never saw not one moose, not even a sign of a moose. The last day, we're riding along out in this area that we hadn't been yet, and I actually got the real guide that day. And he was kind of like taking me in a spot that he thought maybe there was some moose up in there. And we're riding along, and he was out ahead of me, and then we had left these other guys way back, about mile back, and they were going to go just set up in a stand. And so they had tied their horses up over there, and I thought, well, here we go. We're going. I love going someplace, at least getting to see something, And so we were running along, and I looked off to my left, and I see one of these horses, and I think, oh, this guy's lost one of their horses, and it's following us. It's off about 50, 20 feet, but I couldn't see it very well. And it turns out it wasn't a horse; it was a moose. And the moose was following us, probably thinking that we were other moose because it was during the rut. And so as I get to a place where there's a big enough clearing and I see it's a bull moose, a little bull moose, but it was the only moose we saw. And I said, I'm going to shoot this moose. Well, the guy was off far enough to where I didn't want to holler at him, and I just pulled my rifle out. Now I'm sitting in the saddle, I pull my rifle out, and I go to shoot, and the moose moves up. And I thought, oh man, I can't see him. But he stopped. He didn't go anywhere, So I decided I'm going to get out of the saddle and shoot him. So as I start to get out of the saddle, I forget I'm wearing packs. If you ever wear packs in a saddle, you'll know the stirrups get caught unless you kick them free first. I kicked free the right side, jumped down, and my left boot is up like this, hanging. And I got my rifle like this. And I'm thinking, I see the bull. I don't know anything about this horse, but I see that bull. Anyway, I shoot the bull. The horse doesn't run off. I get a bull. I bring him home. That's the first story. I decide I have to go and kill a big moose. I have to. And so a friend of mine later on, this is 5 or 6 years later, he says, hey, I know you want to go bull moose hunting. And I found this guy, and he told me about it. It was just an exceptional guide service. And in fact, they had a write-up in Peterson's Hunting Magazine. I don't know if you all know what that is. A very elite hunting magazine that only has the best of the best in there. And they were running a special because they didn't have very many moose hunters. They have a lot of sheep hunters and other things, but they had a lot of moose that year, and they were running a special. And so we ended up, and it wasn't cheap. The special was not a special. It was not a blue light special. It was a red light special. But anyway, so we go up there and we fly in. I mean, these guys fly us all these places where we were going to go, and we set up, and we get into this one camp. It's just beautiful. I mean, it really is. It's beautiful. We land on the lake and get off, and as we're getting off, there's a cook getting onto the plane, and he's grumbling. He's like mad. He's like, I can't believe those blah, 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 and he's cussing and saying stuff, and he's getting on the plane. Well, I didn't know what he was talking about at first, and I look at this friend of mine, and I said, do you hear what he said? He said, I don't know. Sure, maybe they ran out of food or something. I don't know. So anyway, so he gets on the plane, he leaves. We go into camp and meet these 2 guys. They're our guides. One guy's supposed to cook, or one guy is supposed to help cooking, and the other guys switch off every other day, and they had it all worked out, and they were going to take care of us. Well, the first morning we get up, I'm excited. I get up before daylight. I'm dressed. I'm ready to go, and I'm waiting for these guys, and I'm waiting for these guys, and I'm waiting for these guys, and I finally go over to where their tent is, and I say, hey, y'all getting up, or what's going on? And not a word, not a word. And I yell at them again, and I start telling a friend of mine, let's just saddle our horses, and then, they'll be ready to go, and we can go when they get up. Well, they get up like maybe 2 hours after that, and we got horses saddled, and I've been yelling at them for half an hour at least now. And they get up, and they say, well, we got to have breakfast before we go. We can't go without breakfast. So they sure enough, they go and they have breakfast, and I mean, this is forever, and this is like, I'm sitting here doing deja vu. I mean, now here it is all over again. I've got all this, I've done the whole thing all over again, and I've got a better place, and it ends up being the same kind of a deal. Anyway, these guys take us out, finally, and we go separate ways. Dave is a friend of mine. He went with one guy, and I went with another guy, and we go out on the very first day, and I'm scared to death. I'm scared to death that they're going to do this. I hear these guys talking and realize that, number one, they don't know very much about hunting, but they've been there long enough to know there's no moose in the area, and that's what they're telling me. There's no moose up here. We're not going to get any moose. We're not going to get any moose. So as I'm going along, I spot this one moose up on a ridge. You know, I'm thinking, I tell the guy next to me, you know, the guide, and I say, hey, there's a moose over there. He's like, oh yeah, there is. Anyway, so we get off and we glass this moose, and I say, well, is that a big enough? I mean, what do you think of that moose? And he's like, I don't know. I've never shot one before. And so I'm thinking, this might be my only chance. I might be in the middle of this again, and I'm not going to wait till the last day and not have anything. So I go ahead and I shoot this moose. Well, I shoot him, I get him down, I go up there, and I start to, you know, skin him out, gut him and skin him out. And the guy, actually, you don't gut these things. You basically bone them out. You have to skin both sides, roll them over, and after you get one side fleshed out, you might be able to get them rolled over if you pull them with a hook. So this guy doesn't know anything about skinning anything out. He doesn't know anything about anything. In fact, when he did try to help me, after I had pulled the hide off one side, he comes up, and you know the back strap runs from the backbone over about this far. He takes and cuts his knife right down the middle of the back strap and was going to pull this side off. And I'm like, whoa, leave it alone. I'll take it. Because I took every bit of that meat home. That's really good eating meat. That's the second one I've got, and that's the one good thing about moose. It is better than grass-fed cattle. But anyway, here I am. Same thing all over again. And I don't understand, you know, I do understand how I was feeling at the time. He actually said there's more moose here when I was about to shoot this moose. But at the time, all I'm thinking is everything that I've seen and heard, and I'm using that, and I just go ahead and shoot this moose anyway. A friend of mine, 2 days later, shoots a bigger moose than I do. 2 days after that, the last day of the season, this guy that had flown in with us, he went out with another guide. He shoots a record book bull, one of the biggest bulls made booming profit. He was a giant bull. And here I am the whole time, just shot my bull the first day. I had done all the wrong things, and I had done it because all I could think about is that I wasn't going to do what I needed to do. I wasn't going to get that moose. You know, I was going to just be, because of what had happened, my experiences. And as I thought about that, I realized something. You know, the whole trip, and I think it's wonderful to be able to remember and have memories, and I had that bull. I mounted that bull. It was the first bull I ever mounted, or first thing I ever taxidermed. But I mounted that bull, and I have him still. Not the best bull, but it reminds me of this story and the way things are in life sometimes. We let people lead us, and we let people tell us things, and we go along with how they do things, and at one time, they confuse us. And what's going on in the world right now is so confusing. The leaders of what we're doing and the way everything has been going is like, oh, it's up, no, it's down. Oh, it's over, no, it's over this way. Every time we look at something, something changes. And here's the thing, God never changes. Nothing that he tells us ever changes. Everything that is in the Bible is for us to understand, believe, trust, and follow through with. Yet, because of the way the world is, a lot of times we worry and we start to think, well, that's not working. God's not there. We're not going to be okay. And so we do stupid things instead, like me shooting that bull at the time when all this stuff had happened. I had waited all, and I had thought about it, and I realized that that would be my only chance to shoot a bull, so I did. But you know what? In life, it isn't that way. If God tells us there's a bigger one up ahead, we need to wait for that. We need to understand that if God says something, then that, and that's what my goal was not to shoot any old bull. My goal was to shoot a big bull. But I did. I shot any old bull, and I was upset for 6 days during that hunt because I had done that first thing. I had done it, and I had thought, oh, this is the way to go. But it really wasn't. In life, with the way everything goes, it's very confusing. And the way we're supposed to do it is all come together, believe and trust in what God tells us, and move forward toward heaven. But a lot of times when things are confusing, and right now I guarantee the way everything is going in the world, it's confusing. It's like, what is real, what is not real, what is the way we're supposed to go, and what is not. And I can tell you, I look back in the story in the Bible, and the story is Moses. Moses is sent to get the people out of Egypt who were slaves. Okay? And he's sent and he's told by God he can do it. And Moses is a little leery of the whole thing, and at the very beginning he says, well, that's not a job for me, you know. But he does it. And he does it. And the whole way, everyone there that he's gotten out of slavery is saying, wait a minute, I think we want to just go back. I think this isn't going to work. We don't have any food. We don't have any water. We don't have this. We don't have that. And the whole time, they were complaining to Moses and saying how horrible it was. And they weren't watching God because all they had was Moses. And so when that happened, it was just one person. It was one person trying to lead. And as that leadership fell apart because he went and got the 10 Commandments, and when he left, he came back to a miserable mess. Everybody had fallen apart, and they were worshiping other gods and doing all this stuff. You realize by looking at all this that was a mess. And why was that a mess? Well, a lot of stuff in the Old Testament is kind of a mess, but it's for us to learn. And see, here's the difference. Moses was one person. When Jesus left, he left the Great Commission for all of us to go and make disciples, for all of us to become disciples, for all of us to be leaders, for all of us to support each other, for all of us not to stand by and see injustices happen, but for all of us to do something. And when we all come together, we become stronger. In fact, all through the Bible it says that we're supposed to come together. That's strength. In Ecclesiastes it says 2 is more than twice as strong as 1. More than twice as strong as 1. In Matthew it says that where 2 or 3 gather, I will be there. In other words, Jesus is going to come together because he wants us to come together. He knows that that's going to be strength that we will draw. And so what the difference between like when Moses was trying to lead and what's going on right now is that there's many of us. But here's the difference. When the devil, when Satan, when the world divides us, keeps us from coming together, keeps us from being strong, from doing what God needs us to do, from seeing the truth, and we start getting misled, like I was misled about what was going to happen on that moose hunt. I was totally misled. I thought, oh man, this is my only chance I've got. And a lot of times, that's how people feel. Well, this is the only chance we got. We just got to give in. It doesn't matter. We're going to let go of what God's been telling us, and we're just going to give in to whatever the world is saying right now. No, we don't have to. We can believe and trust in what God is saying. We need to be strong for other people. We need to always manifest God's Spirit, His light. And others will see it. But you know what? The way we do that is by never letting anyone mislead anyone else. That we stand up and we make sure that no injustices happen. And that's a hard thing to do as an individual. But as many, it isn't so hard. Each one of us has a job. Each one of us can help another. And as we do that, the other can help another. And as we multiply that way, all of a sudden, what seemed to be impossible has now overwhelmingly become possible. And so as we do that, as we grow and become Christians and become disciples, key word, disciples, we teach others, we show others. You know, I know a lot of times things happen, and they happen from just a few people. Bad things can happen just from a few people. I know that, in teaching, I've heard of really liberal or I don't know a good word for it, but colleges that are teaching things that are against what God has been teaching. Okay, and I know that goes on. But even within those colleges, you got to imagine there's Christians in there. And then there's people that aren't Christian that are teaching the wrong thing. And what's going on is that those Christians are standing by and letting it happen. People let things happen, and when we do, we're just as bad as that person that's doing it because we haven't put a stop to it. You know, we talked a few weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer, about how Jesus hates injustice and how we can see the impact of what he did when he goes to the temple. Thank you. Sorry. Wow. I got to Anyway, so he's outside the temple, and people are doing an injustice to the people that were wanting to come to see God. And he builds a whip, and he drives all these people that were doing that out. And he stops them from misleading people. And that's what we need to see and do and act upon in this world right now. We need to understand that God guides us to do right. And that as long as we follow his path, as long as we see what's in the Bible and use it to guide us, then we can do whatever we need to do. I see so many things, injustices going on, and the way that we handle them a lot of times is just to step back. And I say this today, the one message that God laid on my heart is that let's stand up for injustice. Let's start doing whatever we can so that injustices don't continue to go on and continue to cripple this world. The United States is based on Christianity. Let's bring it back to Christianity. In Proverbs 3:6 it says this, "In everything you do, put God first, and he will direct you and crown your efforts with success." In Proverbs 16:9 it says, "We should make plans counting on God to direct us." Without God in our life, we can't possibly get where we need to go. We all know that. The end result is heaven. As long as we have God in our heart, we know we end there. We know we win in the end, and we know that no one can stop us from getting there. But how about all those people that don't? How about all those people that don't? Here's something that God laid on my heart that I want to. It's a scripture in 1 John 4:1, and it says this. It says, "Dearly loved friends." This is John speaking, and he says, "Dearly loved friends, don't always believe everything you hear just because someone says it is a message from God. Test it first to see if it really is." And how you test it is you go to God and you go to His Word, and you go, actually, here's where you go. You go to the New Covenant. The covenant that Jesus Christ made with us. And that is the New Testament. You go to the New Testament and you say, is this true? Is this really what God wants us to do? And that's how you test it. You say, what would Jesus do? What is Jesus' word on this? And that is so key in the world that we live in right now. I heard, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't even remember his name, but some senator or congressman or something was also a priest or I don't even know what they call themselves, but anyway, he was supposed to be a Christian, and he was saying how abortion is right. He was saying how, and he actually won the election, but he was saying how abortion is right, and it's somehow in the Bible it states that. Now I never did figure out exactly what he was trying to get at, but I do know this, that nowhere in the New Testament does it say anything about abortion being right, or even having a clue that it might be, or anyone concerning anything can see it that way. Now, there are some weird things in the Old Testament. There's an eye for an eye. We all remember that. But when we go to the New Testament, the New Covenant, the one Jesus came to save us with, that one says, turn the other cheek. That's the one we go with. We need to remember that it is Jesus that gets us home. God sent him so that we might live. Follow him. Following Jesus is the only way to live. Period. And right now I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray in Jesus' Spirit so that we can all go to heaven. And if you all want to follow along, you can. I know that he is the only way. Dear Lord, I know that I can't possibly get where I need to go without you in my heart. So today I'm asking you to come into my heart, to lead, guide, and direct me, to help me to stand up for any injustice, to help me to be strong and to be a Christian above all else. Not to let this world misguide me, but have you guide me. And along the way, help me to shine your light so others can see the way home, and come to heaven. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay.